Coming up on Half Mile of Hell.
Going to him is fine. Standing up that stage is tough. You're just praying that somebody wants you.
Your blood pressure's up a little bit today.
That's enough for me. I just don't think it's my place on earth to be there to watch a baby be born.
I'm gonna give one of them a licking. Get up here. Who's first? Come on! Get off your bike. I'll take all three of you. Come on! Come on!
It's the West's original extreme sport. 4 horses hitched to a wagon, racing hell-bent for leather around a half-mile track. The stakes are high, and disaster is only a heartbeat away. These are the Cowboys, and these are their stories. So hang on tight, because you're about to ride the Half Mile of Hell. It's been called the NASCAR of Alberta, the sport of chuckwagon racing. Every summer, 36 drivers of the World Professional Chuckwagon Association hit the road, going head-to-head at events across Western Canada. With over 80 years of organized racing on the books, this is a proud Alberta tradition. The race begins here, on the infield of a half-mile-long oval track. Each wagon is hooked to 4 horses, followed by a posse of 2 horsemen called outriders. The first outrider steadies the lead horses at the front of the wagon. When the horn sounds, the second outrider loads a mock stove into the back of the wagon. While the 2 outriders mount up, each wagon team cuts a figure 8 around a pair of barrels. Then it's a mad dash around the track to the finish line. It's exciting and dangerous, and therein lies the thrill. Drivers and outriders have lost their lives on the track, so the rules of the game are strict and they must be respected. For a driver looking to place among the best, it's the right combination of experience, horsepower, and luck that can make or break a championship season. He's the man they call the King. Kelly Sutherland has won more than any driver in the history of the sport. He's an 8-time world champion, and he's won the Calgary Stampede GMC Rangeland Derby a record 10 times. At 55 years of age, he's still going strong. Kelly placed second last year in the world standings. This year marks his 40th season of racing, and some are wondering if it might be his last.
As every year comes and goes, I mean, certainly I think a lot more of it. I've achieved, you know, basically what I set out to do in this sport. I'm not done winning. I mean, I have a tremendous drive. I feel, you know, very, very strong and passionate about the sport.
Traveling and competing at Kelly's side is his son, Mark. He's been in the game for 13 seasons. Mark says he was born into the wagon life.
Wagon racing is a family affair on a number of different levels. It's your lifestyle, so you know, it's really kind of what you know, and it's what you're used to, and it's what you're comfortable in. You know, like a kid that grows up at the rink, well, I guess I had the opportunity here to grow up around horses and ride them if I wanted to, and it was only a matter of time before I drove.
They've been competitors for over a decade, and so the idea of his father and mentor retiring leaves Mark with mixed feelings.
I guess with every athlete's career, there comes an end to it, and I don't look forward to when Dad retires. He's always said he's not interested in being in this sport if he's not competitive, and he's always been competitive, and it's very important for him to go out on top. Not sure whether I should hope for him to win or lose.
Kelly has set the bar high for the Sutherland name. It's been a tough standard for Mark to reach. At 35, Mark has yet to win an event. But last season, he had a respectable finish, placing 14th in the world standings. Like any driver, he wants to move higher.
My goal in wagon racing from day one was to be the guy in the race where people have to plan their outfits and their strategy around me. And I feel in most cases I was that guy last year and even the year before. If I can get that combination going again this year, I should have a very good year.
"36-year-old Chad Harden had his best year last season, finishing 12th in the world standings. He's only raced wagons since 1999, but already his sights are firmly set on becoming a champion.
I had a great start last year. I led the World Pro Chuckwagon Association for the first 4 shows. Things just didn't work out, and then I flattened out at the end of the year. This year we hope to win one of the truck shows, which would mean you did well all year. Either we win the Tour Finals or the World would be an exceptional year. So we're starting to set our goals a little higher. I think we got a deep enough bullpen to start making some of the moves. I need to be able to change all these shirts to accommodate my sponsors.
Performance on the track is just half of Chad's business plan. When he asks for tens of thousands of dollars in sponsorship money, he feels it's critical to deliver off the track as well.
What I try and guarantee my sponsors and my family and friends is the entertainment value of having fun, coming back to the barns, doing as good as I can on the racetrack, but being able to come back to the barns and have the freedom of talking and not worried about me being upset or anything. I mean, the race is there, but that's only one part of the whole aspect of chuckwagon racing.
"47-year-old Rick Fraser has 9 seasons of racing behind him. He won the World Championship in 2004, but slipped to 7th last year. For Rick, the wagon life has always been a family tradition.
My grandfather, he was the foundation for the modern day chuckwagon races right now, I think. My uncles all did it, the Dorchester family. Then I was lucky enough to get a stepdad that loved to do it and was really good at it, Dave Lewis. And Dad taught me a lot.
This one's right here.
Rick, his wife Sue, and their 3 children have always been together for the chuckwagon season. But as the Fraser teams develop their own interests, the family unit is fragmenting, which has Rick considering his future in the sport.
As a wagon racer, I think it's important to have my family with me, period. If my kids said, "Dad, we don't want you to do that anymore," I'd have to really seriously look at changing our lifestyle. Okay, let's go.
A new season starts in June. But long before any drivers will be ready to go down the road, they need to get their horses and their finances back into shape. Although it's officially springtime, it still looks like winter in Alberta. The horn for the first wagon race won't sound for almost 2 months. But for driver Chad Harden, the game is already on.
Actually, this year I'm really looking forward to it. I had a great start last year, and I think I can get close to that same start. And the biggest challenges I got to achieve this year is getting some newer horses, some younger horses in the bullpen. I got quite a few older horses that I have to maybe not use as often as I did last year. I mean, they're good, they're veterans, I know exactly what they're gonna do, but I gotta get some new blood into the bullpen.
Spring training, Not much time for Chad to break new horses and to figure out which ones will become his new superstars.
Hike! Hike!
Hang on, Eddie.
Despite the hard work ahead, spirits are high in the preseason. The slate is clean, and the possibilities for success are endless. Spring training for driver Rick Fraser happens at Evergreen Park in his hometown of Grand Prairie. It's where the chuckwagon season will begin in early June. Training horses and building teams for the coming season represents a serious investment of time and money. No one is more serious about this investment than Rick Fraser.
They are us, and when I say us, I mean all 36 drivers. The horses are us. You only get out of it what you put into your horses.
A wagon will only go as fast as its slowest horse, and there are only a few short weeks to bring the entire team up to race condition. When the first horn sounds, every animal must fire as one. Grand Prairie is also home to chuckwagon legend Kelly Sutherland. The Sutherlands own one of the largest wagon operations in the sport. So the preparations for a brand new season are as much about financial planning as they are about conditioning horses.
At the Sutherland Ranch, we spend right around $1,100 a day from the time we start training till the time that we complete, which is the 1st of September. The costs don't stop there, but the actual down the road expenses. I need roughly $200,000 to make it go where I don't have to pay out of my own pocket.
Mark Sutherland has come up from Calgary to join his father and work their horses together. They begin with over 100 head. Less than half will make the cut.
If everything goes good, we look to have a great year again, both Dad and I, but I'm not ready to compete right now. I need to find a couple key horses. I need to develop my so-called draft picks. You know, there's a bit of a science to it, and you know, I guess that's where maybe I have an advantage over some of the other guys. I can use Dad's experience.
Oh, good. They're good.
Chuckwagon horses are thoroughbreds direct from the racetrack. Pulling a wagon hooked together as a quartet is a brand new skill that has to be learned. Until a new horse is put to the test, there's no guarantee that it will excel or even adapt.
There's so many variables on buying a horse to become a wagon horse. If we could figure it out, we'd be a millionaire. I bought 10 new ones going into this year, and out of them we might get 3 or 4 that might make it into the races this year. So I mean, your odds are 30%, but then if they're a star and if they last more than a year, it's pretty tough. It's just like going to the NHL lottery draft. I mean, you never know what's going to happen when you draft a kid.
Hey! By yourself, Harden.
A horse can set a driver back anywhere from $1,500 to $25,000. Feed, vet bills, barn crews, vehicles, and the infrastructure to train and care for these animals makes wagon racing an expensive venture and a hard way to make a living.
Jake! There's only 1 or 2 drivers nowadays that actually have a full-time living in chuckwagon racing, so I mean, they call it a sport and we're supposed to be professionals, but we're not quite there yet. I mean, most professional athletes, when they're done their season, It's either holiday time or they regroup where we're basically all going to work so we can get enough money to come back at the sport.
In an effort to make ends meet during the off-season, Chad Harden operates a chemical supply business. Kelly Sutherland makes additional income as a field consultant for the oil and gas industry. Rick Fraser operates a vacuum truck service. And when he's not in a wagon, Mark Sutherland finds himself as far from a racetrack as one might imagine.
I've been working for Encana for the last 6 years. I look after construction. We build leases, which is the actual square on the earth that the drilling rig sits on. Chuckwagon racing is, driven by sponsorship. While sponsorship dollars have went up significantly over the last 10 years, and that helps, but you have to have another job. I mean, you have to make those sacrifices, and everybody does it. Hello.
Hi there, we have a meeting.
In 10 minutes.
We started.
I'll be there shortly.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye. It doesn't matter whether you're running fast or running slow, your horse eats the same amount of grain and your truck burns the same amount of fuel. So yeah, I mean, you have to work your butt off in the wintertime and try to bank enough money, or else you're just not wagon racing.
A driver does everything he can to bridge the financial gap between seasons, including putting himself up for auction. With their spring training well underway, the chuckwagon drivers turn their attention to tarp sales. Like race cars, sponsorship is sold on each wagon. In Western tradition, the sales are handled through a series of auctions. This is where most of the money will come from, to build, to race, to dream. Collectively, the prices paid will fund a driver's season, so the stakes are high and the nerves are on edge.
The tarp sales are unique to our sport, certainly, but I suspect they're like a draft, for hockey or football.
Going to them is fine. Standing up that stage is tough. It's not much fun standing up there. You're just praying that somebody wants you and they'll bid on you.
The tarp auctions are a huge amount of our income. If we didn't have our tarp auctions and the value of our tarp sponsors, the sport would not be anywhere where it should be right now.
The sponsorship is huge, and it really kind of drives what you do each year as far as purchasing power.
When it becomes 70–75% of your income, it's stressful.
You need that money to go down the road. There's expenses that one would never believe when it comes to a chuckwagon outfit.
The first auction represents tarp sales for 8 of 10 WPCA events. It is held at a variety of locations across Alberta and is tied together via satellite. Anyone with satellite TV can get in on the action. Bidders wanting the top drivers better bid early and bid high. A driver's total selling price for these 8 shows can range anywhere from $60,000 to $100,000. At Duke's in Grand Prairie, hometown favorite Kelly Sutherland has just secured over $81,000.
Mine went strong. I've been very strong the last few years. I've went to numerous different companies, and most of them returned, so I was very happy.
Say hello to Mr. Mark Sutherland.
I have an idea of where I want to sell. Maybe I don't have to be the highest. I guess that's probably the Calgary Stampede champion should be the highest, or You know, someone like Dad, who typically is one of the highest paid guys there. But I always like to be in the top few, and that's kind of where I am.
Mark's expectations are met when he lands just over $65,000.
A world champ, Rick Fraser.
You're always nervous. You're hoping somebody will bid on you. I've always told my wife, you go up there, we'll get more money.
At 7th place in last year's world standings, including 2 show wins, everyone expects Rick Fraser to fetch top dollar. But Rick's main sponsor of 7 years is no longer with him, and the other bidders are unaware that he's even available. When the hammer falls, Rick Fraser could very well be the bargain of the night.
It's just the way it goes. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to have him for 7 years. That's a very long time these days for a chuckwagon sponsor.
At the Medicine Hat auction venue, 12th place Chad Harden is about to go on the block, and Rick's numbers have made him uneasy.
When a guy with his profile sells ahead of you and he's sort of, I would call it a weak auction for Ricky, it made me a little nervous before I got up there.
The business-savvy Chad Harden has done his homework. He sells out his 8 shows for an impressive total of $96,000.
I've spent my time with most of my sponsors from last year, and I found a couple new ones this winter. And I had everything pretty well lined up going into the auction where I would be at for a bottom dollar. Yeah, it worked out excellent.
Back up north, Chad returns to spring training. The satellite auction gives him a healthy start to finance the coming season. But there are all sorts of expenses to chip away at his budget, including a growing family. Chad and his wife Dory are expecting their 3rd child, and the timing of this one couldn't be worse.
I had 2 girls in the winter, and now I have this new baby coming June 30th, right in the middle of Panocha Stampede.
To honest goodness truth, I really don't pay attention too much. I know she's due at Panocha Stampede, so she's, I believe, on her 6th month now, so 3 months left. She's the type of person that likes to have stability, and to me, there's a doctor in every town, so instead of us having an hour drive into Edmonton where we had the first 2 kids, we're gonna be in a town or on our way to a town, so it's more convenient. Yeah, it's not the doctor you're used to, but I really don't show up at the delivery room. I get her to the hospital, and I just don't have no interest in being there. I just do not think it's my place in earth to be there to watch a baby be born. I can watch calves being born and everything else, but when it comes to that, it's just not my cup of tea.
It seems Chad wants to be where he's most in control, with the reins in his hands.
So for this baby, he's probably going to be at a meeting, if it's during the day, and at night, he's going to be on the racetrack. So he has informed me that I'm on my own and to catch a ride to the hospital.
Go. Probably gotta lift that side up a little bit, Shane, and then the other side will pop up. Yeah.
It's about to go ahead.
Oh, we're tight. We just had that one little incident where we had the good hook out there, I guess you'd call them the better ones, and sort of rolled the sleigh and had a little malfunction, but nothing got hurt, so we're okay.
Hey! Control is just an illusion for Chad Harden, and his wife's next appointment with the doctor will prove it. Winter finally lets go of the Canadian prairies. The chuckwagon season is weeks away, and spring training is in full swing.
Every spring's the same. It's 6 weeks of intense training. It's as much a mental game at this stage as it is for the 50,000 in Calgary. You got to plan, you got to figure it all out, because we had a lot of days of racing.
I love this, probably the best part, is the spring training. Like winning the Calgary Stampede in the World Championship, don't get me wrong, that's good too, but I'm sure it's just like a farmer. You know, you get out in the field, you're tilling it and getting it all ready, and you're hoping for the best.
Okay. Mixed in with the excitement of a new racing season, the Hardens prepare for the arrival of their third child. But Chad doesn't seem to share Dory's enthusiasm.
I'm glad you could make it.
Yeah, whatever. Let's not go there right yet. I might not be staying home.
Chad, you have to hear a baby's heartbeat.
I don't have to hear nothing.
Yes, you do.
No.
Yeah.
It's not my job, it's the doctor's job.
Hi there.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. How are you feeling?
Tired? Big? Uncomfortable? How many other words do you want?
Normal.
Itchy.
Huh?
My car keys.
I haven't really met Chad before. Right?
No.
You ain't gonna see me often.
Huh? Really?
No.
I'm hoping he'll be at the delivery, but
It's not
We
my
sort of have
job.
a policy about that. Kind of expect him to be there.
That's your policy, I got a different one.
his policy is racing at Panocha Stampede.
Oh, really?
It's going to be very challenging for me to be 9 months pregnant and cheering my husband on and thinking about my other girls and going to deliver this baby.
Your blood pressure's up a little bit today, too.
Really?
Yep. It's just mildly up.
Maybe he shouldn't be with me then.
Huh?
In the delivery room. I'm hoping that he is going to come with me, but this is his business, it's his life. I do understand if he's racing, he can't be there.
I'll say find a ride because I'm not coming. I got a job commitment and stuff, and she already knows that. We pretty well taken care of most of that stuff. That we've had a backup plan usually the last couple times too.
He'll be there. I'm sure of it.
Chad might be able to walk away from his squeamishness about doctors and births, but he won't be able to dodge what Mother Nature has in store for him.
139. They told me that I'm big for my dates, which means I may be having this baby early, or it's a big baby, or it's twins.
Susie's homemade pizza.
They have traveled together and worked together every summer for the last 9 chuckwagon seasons. The Frasers are a very close-knit family.
Well, we have 3 wonderful children. We're very proud of them. Cody, he's 14 and in grade 8, and he's just a strong kid. He's an inch taller than his dad. He's almost 6 feet, so. He's into computers, he likes the technology, so I think that's the path that he'll take. Kaylee's 16 and she's our horse gal, and she loves every bit of the horses. She's in school, grade 11, and she's got her goals in barrel racing, so this summer we'll get her going down the road. She's already started in high school rodeo, and she wants to continue on that so that she can pursue her goals.
The Frasers' eldest daughter is Amy. At 19, she's decided not to join her family on the chuckwagon circuit.
Amy is now out of school, so she's working and trying to figure out just kind of what path she wants to take. So she's a lover of animals, and so she's kind of getting a dabbling in that. She's doing dog grooming.
Before we go out on our tour, we just like to gather everybody together, and we also like to celebrate our kids' birthdays, and they happen in June and July. So thanks for coming, and let's sing happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
The occasion is bittersweet for Rick. His children have grown up, and their own interests lure them away from the wagon life.
I was having a real hard time this spring with that, and you know, my wife and I talked about it. But it's important to have your family, boy.
Load out, boys.
Kaylee will still join the family on the road this summer, but coordinating her barrel racing with her father's wagon racing will make life very busy for the Frasers.
The barrel racing is going to be on the weekend, so that means we're going to have to do some shuffling. So probably that's going to fall on my shoulders, and I'm going to have to make sure that she gets to where she needs to go.
She wants to go barrel racing, and she doesn't really want to be here. She's torn, and you know, 75% of her wants to be going down the road on her own with her barrel horse Zoomer, and the other 25 she'd like to be around.
Yeah, I think he was counting on me being there. One of his daughters, always there, I guess. But I don't think that chuck wagon racing's exactly for me, considering it's not a girl's sport.
Family and wagon racing are his two great passions, but this summer they won't mix as well as they used to. It could be a tough season for Rick Fraser, knowing when to take a stand and when to roll with the punches.
Hey, Cody, I'm gonna give one of them a licking. Get up here, drive this. All right, boys, who's the first one? Get off your bikes and get your helmets off. Let's get at her. You've wrecked this place and chased my horses for enough times. I'm gonna give you a kick in the ass. Get up here. Who's first? Come on! Get off your bike. I'll take all three of you. Come on! Come on!
ATV riders trespassing at Evergreen Park in Grand Prairie have disrupted Rick Fraser's spring training for the last time. They're about to learn what happens when a cowboy gets riled up.
We all put a lot of work into this place. Like, we volunteer our trucks and time. And it's frustrating when people just have zero respect. I just don't understand that. I just don't get it.
All right, boys, who's the first one? Get off your bike and get your helmets off. Let's get at her. You've wrecked this place and chased my horses for enough times. I'm gonna give you a kick in the ass. Get up here. Who's first? Come on! Get off your bike. I'll take all three of you. Come on! Come on!
When they come through the bush wheeling their quads at my, or the one quad at my horse. But it's just ignorance on their part, I guess.
You guys, there's no quad riding in here, and you see the sign. Get off your bike! Come on! Every day I chase guys out of here chasing my horses.
He has a love and a passion for this chuck wagon racing, and I support him in it because that's something that we like to do. And yeah, if it's going to harm the horses, then yeah, he's going to do something about it, as would any of the chuck wagon drivers.
You tell that guy, though, if he wants to be brave, get off his bike. Just as well, I would have got my ass kicked anyway. That's all right, I think I got my point across.
The Panocha Stampede kicks off the summer in late June. It's one of the top 3 chuck wagon events in Canada. A driver's Tarp sale price for this single event can range between $5,000 and $25,000.
Say hello to Mr. Chad Harding. Chuck wagon champion. All right. Thank you. Say hello to Mr. Mark Sutherland. Let's meet a former world champion right now from Grand Prairie. Say hello to Rick Fraser, the 2004 world champion chuckwagon driver.
With a slow start at the satellite auction, Rick is looking to better his numbers in Panocha. And right away, his price begins to climb. It's a great sale, putting Rick back in the price range he deserves. And so the pattern of training horses and attending auctions continues through the spring. Each driver has determined his operating budget for the coming season, and they've all set their sponsorship goals in a range that will keep them in business. Financially, Kelly is only halfway there, and with only 2 more auctions to go, he needs some big-time bidders in his near future. Only 2 auctions remain for the drivers to complete their season's fundraising. Ever the entrepreneur, Chad Harden looks for other ways to shore up his bank account.
Chad's approach to the business side of chuckwagon racing is that of always making his sponsor happy. But Chad has a lot of ideas that I really tend to question.
Actually, I came out with it last fall. My wife was complaining how the kids, there's not enough to watch at night for the wagon races itself, and they're bored. Every sporting function just about has a mascot. And we don't have one as an association. I know how hard things are to get through the association level, so I just decided to take it on my own and sort of brand it with my own signature.
I actually thought he was out of his mind, thinking, you're having a mascot. What kind of mascot? You're going to have different sponsors, so you can't have the sponsor's mascot.
I'm sure glad we put the cold packs in. I think these things are hot.
But after seeing the pictures and seeing what he's going to do with the mascot, using a sponsor shirt on the mascot, and I think it's going to be a great hit. That's what the people out in the crowd want to see, and they get the crowd going and the cheering happens.
It's a little warm though.
So it's one of his better ideas that actually is going to work, I believe.
Yeah, so the logo would be here.
Oh, there's the tail.
But never want to tell him that in the beginning, because his head will get bigger than it is.
That's a big head.
Edmonton is the scene of the next auction. Prices for sponsoring a driver at this event can range between $10,000 and $25,000. It's the second largest of the Tarp sales, making the Edmonton Chuckwagon Derby a great place for sponsors to gain exposure.
Once sponsors get involved in chuckwagon racing, if they get hooked up with the right driver, they love it, and they'll stay for as long as it makes sense, and sometimes even a year or 2 after it makes sense, because they love the sport so much.
Rick Fraser is the defending Derby champion. He's the first to go on the block, and he's a hot property.
I don't want to make him sound good.
Rick's principal sponsor from last year is back and determined to buy him again for this year's event.
Rick Fraser, your champion. Go ahead on him in the first wagon tonight. Go give me $20,000 on him. Everybody bid, who give me $1,000? $6,000, $7,000.
I'm hoping that we get hooked up with WestJet again. We've been together 3 years before this, and we really would like to be back with them again. But it is a public auction, and anything can happen.
23.5 now for 24,000. Don't tell me to go down. Over now 24,000. 5,000 now. 25,000. Don't tell me to go down. 26,000. Now 7. 26,500. Now 7,000. Don't tell me to go down. 26,500. Now 7. 27,000. 27,500. 27,500 on my head, and we 27,000. We want to say thank you to WestJet. Rick, you're flying high, buddy. Thank you, Bernie Sandstone and WestJet for being part of it all. And so say hello to Chad Harding.
The remainder of the evening unfolds fast and furious, with tarp sales going at very respectable prices. As promised, the Edmonton auction fetches impressive sales. There's only one auction left, the big one, the Calgary Stampede. It's where the king reigns supreme. But will royalty command one more bid high enough to become flush for the season? The final auction is the big one, the Calgary Stampede's GMC Rangeland Derby. It's the Super Bowl of chuckwagon racing. This 10-day July event draws attention from around the world. Historically, sponsors have paid between $50,000 and $125,000. This year's Dash for Cash prize has been doubled to $100,000. Calgary is the richest event in wagon racing, and drivers hope their tarp sales will reflect this.
Oh, this is big. This is the biggest auction we're going to be in this year.
If you can do well there, you can set yourself up for the rest of the year and actually for years to come, because financially you can afford to buy some better horses.
And it's the probably the most well-known show that we have, so it you know, it means a lot.
When Rick Fraser goes on the block, his principal sponsor appears again. Their bidding makes it clear they want Rick to fly their colors in Calgary.
65,000. Congratulations. WestJet's our buyer at 65.
Rick Fraser has been a great person for us, a great guy to have support and speak for our company.
I was hoping for a ton of money. I was up from last year, and you know, I was happy. I was over $70,000, and that's a great amount of money. That money will go right back into horses and fixing barns up and paying outriders and buying feed, and that's just what we do.
Well, wonderful young wagon driver, ladies and gentlemen.
Final result was it ended up being ATB and the Hopewell Development Group bidding on me. Hopewell Development ended up bidding $80,000. ATB went to $82,500, and they were the successful bidder.
Ladies and gentlemen, a true legend in our sport of chuckwagon racing, please make welcome to the stage Kelly Sutherland.
The king goes on the block. He needs over $82,000 to meet his target budget for the season.
There's been research done by the sponsors that marketing is worth a lot of money at the Calgary Stampede. Of course, what drives the price higher is people with bigger budgets wanting to win.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to be in the top mile four, here's the man you want to be on.
It's relief for Kelly. He's reached his financial goal. The high sale price gives him his operating budget. Everyone returns home to finish training. When they gather again a month from now, the horn will sound and a new season will begin.
As soon as the auctions are done, you want to get home right away the next day and start training, because it's just, your adrenaline's going from them auctions and you just want to continue on.
Turn the rider.
When that auction's done, that's when the fun starts. That's when you can start training horses and picking out your next superstars.
When the final auction is finished and the gavel drops, I think it's a huge relief for all drivers. I mean, they know their budget, they know the amount of money they have to work with, and then it's off to wagon racing. Time to prove what you're worth.
We are gypsies. We always have been, and we always will be. Down the road we go.